One of the biggest problems that many entrepreneurs put forward for why they're not succeeding or haven't succeeded or why they're never going to get started is there simply isn't enough funding for their brilliant idea. If you talk to people like Mark Lamberti, the chief executive of Imperial, a guy who has watched many businesses come and go over the years, it's pretty clear that he thinks that a good idea is going to find funding, but the idea's got to be good. So imagine if you could have a funding model that could help SMMEs. Co-founder and former CEO of EmpowerProp says that this segment of the market is showing insatiable demand and is taking off in several African countries. This is the MoneyMakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield. Tonight, I'm joined by the head of the ProfitShare Partners, Andrew Maren, to discuss his company's collaboration with Edge Growth in the transaction funding space. You've got to use the word space when you're talking about things like this, and how they can help grow SMMEs. Do you agree with people like Mark Lamberti and Nick Haralambos, the guy behind Nick Harry Socks, that if your idea is good enough, you will find funding? There's no such thing as no funding in South Africa.
I think there's lots of capital. Well, firstly, thanks for inviting me on the show. I think there's lots of capital available, but I think it's hard for entrepreneurs to access them. There's lots of red tape around it, and it's which stage of the business that you're in that people find it difficult to raise capital for.
So there's plenty of capital, or do we just not have enough good ideas, or do you just not have enough good ideas and people who are good at navigating the morass of information and red tape that's required to access the money?
I think we have great entrepreneurs in South Africa, tons of great ideas, and I think we also have quite a bit of drive and capital available from a lot of the big institutions. The problem is trying to get the two parties together on a basis where the banks or the big institutions don't want to lend too early in a transaction, and obviously how does the entrepreneur get off the ground if somebody's not helping him right at the beginning? Everybody's willing to help at a certain stage, but how do the guys get to that stage?
But I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs who tell me that that is the secret. If you can survive 3 years,
yes,
and you're profitable after 3 years, and you've shown growth from point A to point G, perhaps, I didn't want to go to F because F is fail, but you get to point G, right. You've navigated, you've shown that you've got tenacity, you've shown that you've got creativity, you've shown that you've got what it takes to risk your own money or friends, fools and family money, or to simply start with very little and grow to a little bit more. You're worth investing in. Somebody on day one, frankly, is not worth the risk. Or is that different to your philosophy?
So I think that's where we've disrupted the market, where we're able to give somebody who's literally a brand new entrant in the market with absolutely no capital, no financial history, we're able to help them as soon as they have their first contract with a credible company. We're able to provide 100% funding and help them, give them deal assistance to execute on their order. So as our name suggests, Profit Share Partners, we profit share with our client. There's no track record on their side. We get involved with them to make sure that we can help them execute. From us getting involved, they learn how to execute on the transaction as well. And we're a counterintuitive business, because after 6 or 7 times, we build our clients to lose our clients.
That is insane. So, I mean, okay, here I've got an idea. I want to recycle this piece of paper, and I found a new way of doing it, but I have no money. I come to you, I say, Andrew, I've got a great new way of recycling this, and Mondi are prepared to send me all their scrap paper for 6 months on a trial basis. Here's the contract. Mondi are credible. I've got no experience. I haven't the first idea of what to do, but I've got the contract, and I need 10 million rand.
Okay, so we don't do long-term type of funding. Where our funding comes in is if Mondi says, we will guarantee that we'll take off the paper from you if you can deliver scrap or a certain type of paper every 30 days, every 60 days. Great, you got the contract, but you've got no history. Nobody wants to lend you the funds. We come in and say, well, we're happy with Mondi as a risk. What do you actually have to do to make sure that you get paid? And if we can help you manage that risk and mitigate the risk, then we'll put the funds in to make sure that we work together to execute on it.
And the only way you get paid is on profit share.
Correct.
You don't charge me a fee?
There's no, there's no interest involved.
Okay.
We charge a minor fee, but that's part of the actual profit share cost. That's to cover the legal work and the admin fees. But apart from that, it's purely a profit share. So it's in our best interest to make sure that the client's transaction works and works profitably.
And the first thing you get out is your capital.
Correct.
And then a share in the profit.
Correct.
Over what sort of time frame would you be willing to extend this risk?
So our funding is usually short term.
What is short term in your world?
30, 60, 90 days. For example, a client has got an order with Eskom to deliver R1 million worth of these glasses. We know Eskom will pay at the end. We know that maybe Console Glass is the manufacturer of this. How does our client go to Console and say, listen, I've got a great order, but nobody wants to give me the funds because I'm a startup, effectively. So the transactions that we fund are bankable transactions. The applicant isn't always bankable. So we'll say, well, the risk is we're happy that Eskom will pay us at the end. Let's come with you to Console Glass. We'll pay Console for you upfront. We'll make sure all of the risks in between, like transportation, logistics, goods in transit insurance, all of that is paid for. So everything that could go wrong in a deal, we try to mitigate those risks. In the same time, our client is learning about those risks and what he needs to mitigate. Once we delivered, Eskom then pays us, say, 30 days or 60 days later. We get our funds back and our client gets paid. We close out after every single transaction. So he can repeat this on a monthly basis. In time, you can then realize, well, hold on, Console, I've dealt with you quite well over the last couple of months. Maybe they give me a 30-day credit facility, or now you've got some track record. Hopefully a bank will then say, well, you've now got track record, you delivered on time, every time, you've got a bit of capital in the bank, you've got some transaction history, maybe we'll fund you. And so that's what we're trying to get our clients to. We're almost like the incubator or the nursery school, trying to get them to a point where they can stand on their own.
But it's like a speed dating nursery school. I mean, this is the fastest track. You either crash and burn or you fly.
Correct. I'm glad you bring up speed dating, because the other thing that we do is we have the fastest turnaround times. Within 24 hours, we'll tell you if the deal is we can fund the transaction or not. Within 48 hours, if we think we can fund it, we'll give you a term sheet with what it'll cost you and exactly what you need to do. And we try to close out our deals from application to payout within 7 days.
Okay. But typically, when it comes to profit share, who was it? Stephen Levitt and Stephen Dubner went into writing Freakonomics, and they agreed that there'd be a 60-40 split in terms of the royalties in the book. And they both agreed to it. Each one of them thought the other was getting 60 and they were getting 40, which seems to me to be the ultimate partnership, because each thought the other had greater expertise, and they had this huge respect for one another. In your world, what is profit share?
So profit share, we want to make about a third of the profit in the transaction. So we put in 100% of the capital, and we provide deal expertise and assistance, but we only want to make a third of the profit.
But then you require a minimum size of transaction, because if you're making a third of the profit on $100 out of me once a month for 6 months, it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Correct. So what we do, our minimum deal size we look at is about 250,000. So 250,000 to 5 million is, I think, our sweet spot.
What's the biggest one you've done?
We looked at a 20 million rand transaction before. We've actually did that previously, but
does that shake the business model? Does that it removes your capacity to do other deals if you're doing that sort of deal?
Correct. But we've got great partners on board. So we've relaunched, or we started the business again in May this year. And we've got South Africa's biggest and most credible enterprise development funder called Edge Growth.
And they provide the capital for this?
Well, they provide some of the capital, also some expertise. So it's great to have a synergistic partner like that. But we also have other shareholders. We're chatting to a few banks who initially thought we were a threat in the market. Now they believe we're collaborators, because we can help them, I think, grow an SME to a point where we've kind of de-risked it for them.
Yeah, but then this SME's got a track record that they prepare to fund, because up until now, this has been the missing bit of the puzzle. Correct.
So a lot of people are willing to fund you, and that's where a lot of the capital available for SMEs are. As soon as you've delivered, and as soon as you've got the invoice, then we'll fund you. But nobody can get to that point. How do I help you get to the point where you can pay for your goods and services up front, get it actually delivered? You've got a bit of profit now, and every time you cycle it, you're making a bit more.
You've been going since May. How many projects have you funded?
We funded, we've got 18 at the moment transactions that we're looking to fund. And I think, well, let me tell you where we'll end up. We probably do about 50 to 60 million rand a month in the short term. Our vision is to grow to about R1 billion book in about 18 to 36 months. And that kind of book turns over 45 to 60 days. So it's a lot of transactions that...
but that's a huge back office. That's a huge amount of administration.
So we've been quite clever about it, and from our learnings from our first business that we've sold off, we've designed an amazing tech system that can help you everything from onboarding a client to even signing, where a client can sign on his computer with a digital signature without any paperwork going through. We can track the transaction that way. So we're trying to keep the cost of distribution very, very low, because we believe maybe in a few years, if we get competitors like the banks, we won't be able to compete with them on a cost of capital basis, but definitely on a distribution basis, on a cost of distribution.
And typically, what do you expect your failure rate to be? Because not every single one of these is going to be a sitting duck. The guy delivering the glasses from the console factory to Eskom on his first trip may get a cheap truck without any shock absorbers, and that's the end of $1 million worth of glasses.
Well, that's where we actually step in, and we make sure things like that don't happen. So the risk that we have is, like in any business, fraud. Whether the big parastatal or the government department refuses to pay or don't pay on time. But our collection rate in the last 3 years in just the purchase order space has been around 97%. So we've proven to the market that SMEs aren't necessarily risky business. But if you can find your niche, where to fund them, and you can mitigate your risk, you can get a great collection rate and have a great profitable business.
R1 billion book by when?
18 to 36 months, that's the goal.
That's a big goal, that's a big spread. So can we say within 2 years?
Definitely. Well, if the funders come on board quickly enough, definitely.
Andrew Maren, thank you very much for coming in. Andrew Maren is the head of ProfitShare Partners. More ways to grow small business and, of course, small businesses. And if you're in that space, you might want to talk to Andrew Maren, especially if you've got no experience and no capital and no hope. He's your guy. Hopefully, there'll be more ways to increase the number of small businesses in South Africa. For now, though, it's a very good evening. Good night.